guest today is Scott Q. Marcus. He is a columnist, and his column is Striving for Imperfection. We're very glad to have Scott here today.
Thank you.
Hello, Scott.
Hi, glad to be here, Rebecca.
Tell us how you got into writing this delightful column.
Okay. I've been working with weight loss for a long time, and several years ago the Times Standard, which is of course the local newspaper, decided that they were going to have a health tab. So several people said, well, you speak really well, you ought to go ahead and put something in writing. And I'd written a few things here and there, so I contacted the editor and I said, I'd like to write a column for you. And after several back and forth, he finally got back to me and said, let's give it a try, we'll go for a month. I said, great, that'll be good, we'll do it for a month. And then after a month he didn't get in touch with me, so I kept going. And I called him back after about 2 months, figuring I better find out what's happening. And he said, well, I haven't had any feedback on the column. And I said, oh man, what a drag. And he said, no, that's good. Usually the only time I get feedback is if it's bad. So go ahead and continue writing it. And now here we are, it's about 7 years later. I know I'm in my 7th year of writing, but there's been periods where I haven't written because I've been on the road. But we're about 7 years into it. I think I started 2004, 2005, and I'm in several newspapers now and on several websites. And the column has gone from 300 words to 600 words, and that was their suggestion, not just me getting verbose.
Well, you've become very popular.
Well, thank you.
And you have quite a following. And some people look to you as a mentor in many concepts, weight loss and other things, because it bleeds over into self-confidence and how they feel.
Yeah, definitely.
And you seek little stories out to draw that out of people, don't you?
Yeah, my wife says I stare. I like to consider it as I observe. But I guess it's all a matter of semantics. Yeah, I try and watch things, and when I'm on the road, which I do a lot because of my speaking, I sit at airports, obviously, for ridiculously long periods of time, and you just watch what people are doing. And I've always been fascinated by the news, because the news to me it's like a rope of history with all these different threads. And I like the news because here's where we are in this one moment right now, and here's where it was, and here's where it's going to be. And so I'll watch people in a restaurant or in a grocery store just sitting around, and I'll think, how did they come to get here? And then where are they going to go? And then that, in my head, creates stories. Now, some of the stories are real, but my sister and brother-in-law are screenwriters. As a matter of fact, they wrote Simba's Pride, the Lion King sequel. And my brother-in-law has a great line. He says, don't let the facts get in the way of a good story. So, which doesn't mean lie, but if you don't know something, and this goes for speaking too, if you don't know the specifics, like I have a story in one of my books about a little girl, and I call her Jessie. Now, to be honest, okay, this is going to spoil, it's going to pop the bubble for everybody who's heard the Jessie story. I don't know if her name was really Jessie. I don't remember. But I'm not going to go, oh, her name was Jessie. No, wait, I think it was Sarah. No, it was Rebecca. It's Jessie. So little things like that, and I just kind of flesh out the stories and have
But
fun.
you got your point across.
That's exactly.
The point.
Yeah, that's the bottom line, is get the point across. Don't worry about. I mean, you've been in speaking for a long time too, and one of the things that's really frustrating when you listen to a speaker is they'll go, it was last Tuesday that. No, wait, was it? It could have been Wednesday. Wait, Monday? Was it last Monday or was it Thursday when we were at the grocery store? And it's like, who cares? Get on with the story.
Exactly,
Yeah.
because it's superfluous information.
Right, yeah, exactly.
As is the name, in reality.
Nobody's going to call me up and say, you said you were at the grocery store last Tuesday. It was really Wednesday. I saw you there. It's, oh, yeah, you're right. You caught me on it. Oh, damn. But yeah.
You're noted for your delightful stories that you bring into your column.
Well, thank you. I didn't know I was noted.
Yes,
but
you
I'll
are.
take it. Okay.
You're noted.
Okay, I'm noted.
Because you make people remember, and you have a sense of nonsense and fun
Okay.
that really comes through.
Wow. Thank you.
Scott, tell us one of your favorite stories.
I guess probably the one I use most often now, aside from the Jessie story, which I really can't do here because that involves a whole interaction with the crowd that I've now developed, would be because I've lost a lot of weight, and henceforth referred to as the Thinspirational speaker. People come up to me and they tend to think that this collar that I'm wearing is like a father's collar or a minister's collar, and they make confessions about what they're eating. So, oh, it's amazing. I have more people who go through my when I'm in the grocery store, when I'm in Winco or Safeway or something, who go through my grocery cart to see what I'm eating than people who go through my luggage when I get on a plane. I mean, I have people go, should you be eating that? Or I'm looking for some suggestions on healthy food, and they go through my cart. I had somebody about a week and a half ago, I'm in Costco, and they have the samples.
Right.
Where I work part-time, call it the Costco lunch run. You go there and you run around all the day and get all the stuff. And so I was over there and I was trying one of the samples, and one of the people in one of my meetings came up to me and she goes, "Busted." I was like, "Boo."
So you're not allowed to eat?
Well, and I know it's in good intent, but sometimes I literally pop out from beside around the corner. "Hi, gotcha, I saw you eating." Yeah, you saw me eating, you also saw me breathing. But I had a guy who came up to me, and I'm in the grocery store, and he sees me grocery shopping, and he goes, you're the guy, aren't you?" And I've learned never to say yes to that question until I know who the guy is. The guy could be the guy who's having an affair with his wife. I'm not that guy. I'm not owning up to that. So he goes, you're the guy, aren't you?" What guy is that? And on the back of my book, on the back of my columns, or on my columns, there's a little picture of me. And I don't think I'd recognize me from that little picture, but apparently he did. He goes, "You're the guy who wrote the column. You're that guy." I go, "Oh, yeah, I'm that guy." And he goes, "I like you." I go, I like you. and then it got weird, and because people, like I said, they make these weird confessions, They'll come up to me, they'll say things like, "Forgive me, because I had nachos." Like it's my job to say, "Go forth, eat vegetables," and to say 5, something or another. But he's wearing a sport coat, and he opens his sport coat. And he's dressed. I want to make sure we're clear about that. This is not a black socks.
But not that.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. This is not a black socks raincoat thing.
Okay.
But he opens his sport coat, and he's a little bit substantial around the midsection. You can tell he needs to lose some weight. And he goes, "You see this?" I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "I lost these 30 pounds last year." Now, I don't know what to say to that. I mean, do you say, congratulations? Do you say, "I'm sorry you put it back on"? So I responded, "Well, thank you for sharing." And he goes, "I did that low carb thing," and don't even get me started on the low carb thing. He goes, "I did that low carb thing. It worked so well, I'm going to do it again this year." And I stopped and thought, okay, and you caught it now too. And I thought, and it became the basis for several of my columns. It's like, isn't that weird? I've got enough therapy to learn that it's not my job to tell him he's wrong. He wasn't asking for that,
Exactly.
So I kind of zipped my mouth. But the little snarky kid inside was saying, "Hey, pal, if it works so well, you wouldn't be doing it again this year." And that kind of led to a whole slew of columns and stories about we keep doing what we've always done, and then we expect something different.
Right.
I did it last year and it worked so well, I'm going to do it again this year. And if it works so well, you wouldn't have that. And that's what a lot of the stories are about, is we kind of ignore the result of what we're doing. I had a friend years ago who said mistaking activity for accomplishment.
Well, also, I've heard you say so many times that the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over and over.
Yeah, I think
and
that was
expect
Einstein.
different results. Now, I know that you like to quote that a lot.
Yeah,
but I
one of
love
my
that
favorites.
because it's so right on.
Yeah, and one of my other favorites is Voltaire, who said, "God is a comedian playing to an audience that's afraid to laugh." And it's true. We take everything so seriously, and rightly, there's serious stuff that happens, but we get so caught up in the serious, that we get rankled because why are all my stories about grocery stores? I don't know, because you're standing in line in the grocery store, and because you're in a hurry, and then so the lady or the guy in front of you is got all his groceries lined out, and then pulls out his checkbook to write a check. And you're like thinking, what, you didn't think you were going to have to pay for this in advance? I got places to go, pal, because you don't have a life. I got to stand here and wait. And you get all, you feel the tension starting to build up, and then it's just kind of back it off a little bit and realize, on the grand scale of things, what I call the 5-year rule. 5 years from now, will anybody know or care about this?
Or 5 hours from now.
Yeah, well, yeah. And many times, let's be honest,
Yeah.
it's 5 minutes from now. You leave the grocery store, you don't even remember that. I mean, how many times, the simple things we do, it's like you can't lock the door for whatever reason. The key will, and then you lock the door, and then you're like, oh, what's the matter with the door? And then you leave, and 10 minutes later, you've totally forgotten this major dramatic episode and trauma in your life.
When you get this guy that's redoing things that need to be redone because they slipped back, then that gives you tremendous fodder for the articles that help people try to change their habit pattern, their eating style, not just go on a fad diet.
Well, and the fad diets don't work, hence the term fad.
Exactly.
They're short term, they live and they die, and if they worked, they'd be around.
Exactly.
I mean, they don't do it. And people, I find it, granted, a lot of my stuff is about weight. Because that I lost a lot of weight. I was just overweight as a kid. I was overweight until I was a teenager. I was born at 9 pounds 14 ounces.
You just checked in large economy size.
Value size. I remember, 9'14". I remember when my first son was born, he was 6 pounds 6 ounces. And like the doctor says he's okay, 9 out of 10 on the Apgar scale. I go, oh my God, but he's so little. He goes, what do you mean he's so little? I go, he's 6 pounds 6 ounces. I go, I was 9 pounds 14 ounces. He goes, you were cruel. But so a lot of my stuff is tied to weight because I was always overweight, and we do these. You had mentioned the fad diets, but the setting back, the things that we keep trying and they don't work. I think the problem that we face, not only with diets and with health, but with change in general, is we have this really black and white thought process. This, in this little box, there you go, is success. Okay. But if I land over here, it's failure. And we arbitrarily establish whatever this definition of success is. And my sister, God bless her with her wisdom, she said, why don't you just do this? And
a sliding scale of reality, which is reality.
Which is reality,
Yeah.
I mean, who's to say what's success and and what's not? I have people in my meetings, and I do meetings 4 times a week for an international weight loss organization. I had a woman in my meeting, one of my meetings last week, and she's been diligent and dedicated and persistent. She's been there, oh goodness, 3 or 4 years, and she's lost about 30 pounds. And to me, that's a sign of persistence.
Right.
This is not a race.
Right.
This is however long it's going to take you to get the lessons. We made a series of choices as we were growing up, to which we are still doing, that put us where we are. And now we get to a point where we say, I don't like this anymore. The pain of all of those choices is now greater than the ease of continuing the choices.
Exactly.
So I got to change. So it takes some time to unravel and replace those bricks with new bricks. And people, part of the problem is, and why fad diets are temporarily successful, is the appeal of quick. It's not going to be quick. It's a process.
Well,
so,
you have to change their thinking in order to change
Right.
their behavior, and they don't get that.
Right,
They think, I
exactly.
don't have to change the way I think, I'll just go on this diet.
Right.
And it won't work.
Not realizing that the food they're putting in their mouth, or even let's take it out of the diet realm for people who out there, this rare category of people who are skinny, but for people who aren't there, everybody's got bad habits that are unhealthy, and there's a thought process that leads to that event.
Exactly.
And if you don't deal with that thought process, it's kind of like putting a pot on the stove and not turning on the fire and expecting it's going to boil. It's like, God, the thing's not working. I don't get it. I put the water in there and I want it to boil, but you got to kind of go backwards a little bit. So she was upset because she's lost this 30 pounds. She's like 5 pounds from her right weight now, and she's a remarkable woman. I really admire her. So if you're listening out there, you probably know who you are. I said to her, why don't you just make this your goal weight? I mean, you've been maintaining it for the last year or 2. You obviously know how to maintain here. You're not putting on the weight that you lost.
Right.
Why are these last 4 or 5 pounds so essential? And she came in with a note from the doctor because it was outside of the BMI, body mass index. It was outside of it, and, which is what we require at these meetings if you're outside of that BMI. And said, here's your weight. And it's like, great. And he took the box and went, chunk. And the bottom line is, and we'll use again the weight as an example, you have a right to be happy if you weigh 587 pounds. I mean, it's your right, it's your entitlement to be happy. You'll be healthier at 150 pounds.
I think you just hit on the key. Happiness sometimes is in the moment, which is eating what your friends are eating, satisfying that moment. But real self-confidence and health comes from realizing that what you put into the machine, you're the machine, is how it runs.
Right.
In other words, if you want the car to run good, you got to put good stuff in.
Yeah, exactly.
And so if they would think about the moment, what they're putting into their body, what that makes the body, they could change the habit pattern. But they're not. They're thinking about fitting in. You know, most people eat and drink to fit in. Aren't we strange? We get around a bunch of diabetics that shouldn't eat sugar, and what are they doing? Coffee and cake. Why? Because their friends are doing it and they want to fit in.
Right.
Why? They all have the same problem. That's our habit pattern.
That's certainly one of them, is the, you know, the social component, you know, and there's the comfort component, the what I call the medicating.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we have this gamut of emotions and feelings that are welling up in, you know, this giant, I don't know what the word is I'm thinking of, but tumult that's inside of us, and for good or for bad, you know, we're just, these feelings are flowing, they're coming and going, and most of the time we're emotionally neutral, you know, I mean, we're thinking, you know, like, you know, right now is my nose itching, you know, I mean, on camera is my fly open, you know, I mean, it's just emotionally insignificant things. What is the wind like outside, you know, but once in a while we get on one of these things and we get really stuck, we spin, you know, like, I look at it as in the course of a day. See, here we go, I saw something on my sleeve, I had to take it off. In the course of a day, there's this river that's flowing through us, and it's filled with thousands of thoughts, you know, and picture each thought as a leaf. You know, so all these thoughts are just, you know, flowing by, and most of the time, again, using the analogy, you're at a river or a creek and you're watching the stuff flowing by and you're thinking, oh, that's kind of cool, maybe that's pretty, isn't this nice? But there's no attachment to it. I mean, it's short of it's a relief. So the thoughts are flowing by, and the thoughts are things like, oh, let's see here, what's the temperature like right now? Where am I going to go after I leave this meeting? What do I have to do this afternoon? What do I think of the political state of the world? Where are my kids right now? You know, just stuff that until we flag on it is a little frustrating or is nothing.
When people want to change their thought process, they don't realize what they really want. You talked a moment there about using food to medicate. If you're taking something to medicate, you're trying to drown or block out a feeling or an emotion.
Without a doubt.
And so blocking out a feeling or an emotion, if you stop and think about being in the grocery store, why does it break out in the grocery store? It's like being in the liquor store if you're an alcoholic. That's where your medication is coming from. So you're in the grocery store, they're worried about what you or they are eating because they're worried about the balance of their medication, of their feelings and their emotions. And most of those emotions, are they not, founded on feelings of inadequacy and lack of acceptance? And the reason I'm asking that is because socially we eat and drink all the time for acceptance when it isn't the thing that we should be doing, and we know it, but we say, just now because I want to fit in with my friends.
Wow.
What's your point on that?
Oh my goodness. How much time do we have left? Do we have a day or two? Let's see here. First of all, let me flag on several things. The big one for me, you hit on so many points. Just trying to keep them all in my head as you were saying it. I was like, wait, let me answer that. In no particular order, short of what I'm remembering, shouldn't, because you referred to shouldn't a couple of times. You said, shouldn't we do this, or, you know, shouldn't we eat more appropriately as well?
And I realize I shouldn't should on things, but okay.
Well, but I think a lot of it is we compare ourselves to an unrealistic or arbitrary model that might or might never exist. Hence the recovering perfectionist. When I lost my weight for what I hope is for good, one of the rules I made is I got rid of should out of my language. And I realized, somebody said to me, a very good friend of mine, he said, but should is the word for morality.
And the crutch.
Well, yeah, okay, it's a good, yeah, I see where you're going, and it's definitely a crutch, but it's the word for morality in terms of I should be a better dad, I should eat better, I should make more money, I should have chosen my first wife better. She should have chosen me better. I don't know. I should be thinner. I should have darker hair. You know, I mean, as you said, you know, I should all over me. You know,
Yes.
But we do that mistakenly, in my opinion, as a way to establish, shall we say, a moral value or a goal. And so, if you get rid of the shoulds, then it seems like you're, shall we say, adrift, because I have nothing I should do. So therefore, I won't do anything. And I thought about that, and I came up with 3 rules that really helped me, you know, pass these along. The 3 rules are: when you hear the word should in your head, first of all, ask yourself, is it something that you want to do? You know, I really firmly believe we never grow up; we become wrinkled kids. You know, I don't know your age.
Some people go get ironed.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm 57. I don't feel a whole lot different at 57 than I did at 20. I mean, yeah, you look in the mirror and it looks different, and some stuff's getting a little sore, but inside I actually feel a little bit wiser, but I don't feel different. There's not like, oh, there was 20-year-old Scott and now there's 57-year-old Scott. It's basically the same. We get older. So there's that little kid inside of us, and you know, my logo is a little kid reaching for a star. There's that little kid inside of us who still wants to play, who still wants to have fun. So when you hear yourself saying should, I should do this, the first thing is, do I want to? Take care of that little kid who needs to have that experience, you know. If it's not something you want to do, go to the doctor. It's not that you should go to the doctor. The second question is, do I need to?
I'd like to put in this point for a question.
Okay.
In the shoulds, isn't the ultimate goal to look at oneself and say, is this the better part of who I am?
Right.
Not who you want me to be, not what you expect me to be, but the better part of who I personally am. And if you can reach that, wouldn't you eliminate a lot of
Well, right,
shoulds?
and that's the 3 questions. Do I want to do it? If the answer to that is no, then the next question is, do I need to do it? Do I want to pay my taxes? No, I don't. You know, do I want to go to the doctor and get a colonoscopy? No, I don't. You know, do I want to go to the dentist and get checked out? No, I don't. I mean, when little kids say, leave me alone, this is where I need to. I need to do this to take care of me. And finally, there are some things that are not a want and are not a need. Do I want to give money to people who are less fortunate than me? No, I don't. I'm having a tough enough time on my own sometimes. Do I need to? No, I don't. I will live a perfect life just fine. So excuse me. The third question becomes, if the roles were reversed, would I want somebody to do this for me?
Bingo, bingo.
And when
I
those
think you
3
hit that.
questions are thrown in, do I want to, do I need to, and would I want somebody to do this for me, the shoulds disappear.
They really do, because you realize you really wouldn't ask somebody to do something you personally don't want to do. You know they're in the same position, and you have a respect for them, so why not bring that home?
Right, right. And if, you know, I saw just a gut-wrenching sign leaving the mall several months ago. And you know, I mean, my rule is, if I've got change in my pocket and somebody's got one of those signs, please help, I give them the change. You know, I'm not a wealthy guy. I pay my bills. I'm content. But you know, that's my little way of giving in. I do an interview series, you know, like you're doing here. Mine is is audio. And after each interview, I donate some money to onelessmeal.org, okay, in America. That's one of my pet causes, onelessmeal.org. But I'm driving out of the mall, and there's, you know, a lot of times you see the signs, you know, homeless veteran, please help, hungry, need help, trapped, you know, and after a while it becomes, I don't mean to sound cold, it becomes fatigue. I don't have enough to give to everybody. I just don't. I wish I did. This one guy had a sign, and I'll never forget the sign to the day I die, and hopefully you won't forget it either. And all it said is, "I never thought it would come to this."
Wow.
Yeah, I mean,
Wow.
it was. I mean, even as I'm recounting that, and as you feel it too, and I thought, if that was me, I mean, that guy, I don't know. Again, we talked at the beginning of this about creating stories. Who knows what he was? Maybe he was a mechanic. Maybe he was a bank president. Maybe he was just a guy who was always barely hanging on. Maybe he had a family and kids, and there was a horrible catastrophe. Or maybe he was an alcoholic and he lost him and he's now trying to find his way. I don't know. But for the grace of God goes any one of us. And
Exactly.
I thought, I gotta help in some way, because what if that was me?
Because that touches you on a real basic human
Yeah.
level. That touches you.
Greatly, yeah. So anyway, that's the moral code.
With your columns and your writing and an ongoing series over time, you continually write really remarkable and wonderful things that touch people.
Thank you.
And because you touch them, they do change their thinking, and that's why it's so successful.
Oh, wow.
And
Thank you.
I would like to tell you that I think that's grand and that's really uplifting, and that's what people need. And I'm really glad you're good at it, because so
Thank
many
you.
people do need that. And I'm really glad you let me have this interview.
I'm really glad you gave me the opportunity.
This is Scott's book. Scott has many lessons, courses, DVDs, lots of good stuff. Great inspirational guy, Scott Q. Marcus, a columnist that has touched many people's lives, and a real interesting guy all the way around. What's the very most potent thought you would like to leave our audience with?
Strive for imperfection. It's better to do something well and really attempt to get better than it is to try and do something perfectly. I believe searching for perfection is not only a barrier to getting better, it's an excuse to avoid doing the work. If I can't get there, and I know that logically, I'm not even going to try. There was an old bumper sticker in college that said, "Flunk now, avoid the June rush." Leave
That's
people with
good.
the adage about, small steps done regularly generate more results than big steps done intermittently. It's better to get out, walk a block, and really do it than to swear you're going to run a mile and not.
I think that's marvelous. We're imperfect. If you
Mhm.
can accept the fact that we're imperfect to start with, we're always going to be imperfect, and strive toward it, you can find joy, contentment, and less stress. Less stress means less bad eating habits.
And less drinking, and fewer bad
Yes.
relationships, and more happiness, and
Right.
more productive society, all over the place. Yeah.
So less stress equals to just a better life all the way around.
does.
So change your thinking about beating yourself to death for not being perfect or fitting in. Then you have some of the lessons that are taught in a column written by Scott Q. Marcus.
Yes, you will.
Delightful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so
So
much. I
much.
so appreciate it. Thank